Good evening. My name is Ryan Lubin with Cal Fire Incident Management Team 6, the PIO for the Caldor incident here in Dorado County. So quick update for tonight for those of you that might not have gotten the information that right now the fire is currently sitting at 53,772 acres. We're currently at 0% containment with 242 personnel assigned. One thing I'd like you guys to know about that number is going to change. We do put updates out every 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. as far as the number change for acreage, containment, and personnel and what's going on with the fire. Throughout the day, as we do that, we have information that comes out, be it evacuation orders, warnings, or just media releases on any updates that might pertain to the community, and those will be pushed out throughout the day through our social media platforms and through the NCWeb website and the CAL FIRE website as well. So with that, I'm going to bring up our Ops Section Chief for a quick update on the incident itself.
Good evening. My name is Eric Schwab, Operations Section Chief for Incident Management Team 6. Update on the fire, two positive things happened today. The north winds that were predicted with the red flag event haven't made themselves known, which is a huge help for us. Secondly, an inversion has sat over the fire for the day, dampening fire behavior down. What that has allowed us to do is not have to worry so much about structure defense, and we've actually been able to get out, start scouting lines where we're actually going to put control lines and stop the spread of the fire. Starting on the south end of the fire division W and division U, we were able to establish an anchor point over initial attack a couple days ago. That was challenged yesterday when the fire made its large run, so we focused a lot of energy re-establishing that anchor point so we can travel up both flanks. Moving into branch 1, that's the Grizzly Flat area all the way up to Sly Park to Highway 50. Looking at branch 1, Grizzly Flat, the area that sustained the most damage, up Sly Park Road to Highway 50. The fire has not made it to Sly Park Road. It's still held up. About 1.5 miles is the closest it is to Sly Park, and we're currently engaged establishing control lines from Highway 50 back down Sly Park Road, so through 50 down to Division D, down to Division A. That's currently happening. On the eastern flank of the fire, we have several folks out there scouting control lines. A lot of fuels preparation work has been done along literally that whole flank of fire. So we're just out there trying to figure out how we're going to connect road to road, dot to dot, to get control along that eastern flank. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. So with that update of the fire right now, we're taking your questions online. We're writing them down. We're going through them. We're going to hold this meeting to a max of 30 minutes and try to answer as many questions as we can through the individuals on the team, both the Forest Service and through CAL FIRE, and get those questions answered for you the best we can do. So as we're going through them right now, please send your questions in. We're going through those, and we'll get them answered. And let me get our IC so we can answer some of those for you.
Good evening. My name is Dusty Martin. I'm one of the Unified Incident Commanders with the CAL FIRE IMT 6. So a couple of the questions that keep coming up, it relates all the way back to repopulation and people getting back into their homes. As we heard from operations, we still have an extremely active fire. Our number one priority is to get the communities back open and get each and every one of you back into the community. But we cannot do that until it is safe to do so. Safe for the firefighters and safe for the public. So understand we are working each and every day to do that. Looking at this fire here, we're still having good growth, even though that the smoke layer sat down and moderated the fire behavior. We are still in a really good firefight, and the firefighters on the ground are doing everything they can to start bringing some containment to this. But understand, it is going to take some time before we can get you back into your communities.
All right. Well, we're still getting some questions in. I'm going to have our ops section chief come back up and answer a few questions for you.
Okay, a question came in. Which way are the winds blowing? Basically, we're getting the everyday diurnal wind effects that we get in the area, and that's pushing out of the southwest, which is causing the travel to move north and actually more east towards Highway 50, away from populated areas currently. The incident commander, Dusty, touched on repopulation timelines. I'll touch just real quick to emphasize this is a huge fire. It's very challenging terrain. As firefighters, we always choose to go direct, and that means we like to establish our control lines right on the fire's edge. That's the safest and most effective way for us to do that. Down here in Division W and actually moving up into Division A, as people that live around here know, there's 3 large river drainages that it's just not conducive. We cannot be successful going direct against the fire in that steep terrain. It won't hold, will hurt people. So in those instances, we have to go indirect, get away from the fire's edge, and pick topographical features that are advantageous to us. Typically, that's a ridge line, and build a box out and around away from these river drainages and connect those dots. So nothing is coming easy. The state of the fuels and the timber fuel model, yesterday we had a spot fire out here occur 5 miles away from the main fire under normal wind conditions. So very challenging.
Thank you, Chief. We did get some questions in that pertain to our local law enforcement, so I'm going to bring Sergeant Palmberg up to answer some of those for you from El Dorado County Sheriff.
Thank you. Sergeant Eric Palmberg, PIO, El Dorado County Sheriff's Office. Question I got here is law enforcement regarding the looters and the evacuated areas. The El Dorado County Sheriff's Office, as well as multiple other agencies from the region and state, are currently doing patrols in all of the evacuated areas, and we are basically focusing our attention throughout the whole area to prevent any looters from being in the area. I know we have had some contact with people. We are conducting enforcement. We do have a contingent of deputies and officers out there throughout the day shift as well as the night. They are actually conducting briefing right now for the night shift. So we do have adequate resources out there thanks to our allied agencies, and we are going to be diligent about keeping a track of security in all of these areas. Thank you. Oh, a couple more. This question is regarding evacuation order versus a warning order regarding going home to get items. So basically, if your area is under evacuation order, we want you to stay out of those areas. Again, we are conducting security. We are doing patrols in the area. We want the residents to stay out of the area until fire personnel and our fire partners have told us that it is safe to be in there. We are there to basically protect your homes, protect your property. We contact anybody we see in those areas, any vehicles we see. We are looking for looters. So please stay out of the evacuation areas. The areas that are painted red on our maps under evacuation order, those are all still standing. As far as the warning orders, a warning order, you do not have to be out of that area. You are able to be at your homes, on your properties. I do encourage you, if you're in a warning area, to prepare to leave, prepare some of your belongings, prepare some of your valuables, and get them out of there. So a warning area is fine for you to be in. Please stay out of the evacuation areas until our fire personnel and partners have told us it is safe to be in those areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant. We'll have our Deputy IC, Dusty Martin, come back up with a few more questions we got.
So we're seeing a handful of questions coming up about next round of evacuations, or where are we looking at evacuations any farther than this. Our evacuation warnings and orders are based off of the current fire conditions. As the Sheriff just talked about, as our orders and then warnings, we are basing all that off of the fire and the movement of the fire, and if there's change in our fire behavior or the direction. So as we sit right now, we are comfortable with the orders and warnings that are currently out there. Now, if the fire does pick up in intensity and change directions, or you may see more evacuation orders, but that is really all dictated by the fire activity and the weather that we have. So as soon as we are going to do a new evacuation order, we're working with the Sheriff's Department to get that out. Our public information officer will get that out to all the social media platforms so we can keep you with the most up-to-date information. There's been some questions about the damaged structures. We do have multiple damage inspection teams out, groups that are out looking and doing surveys. And as soon as we can get that information compiled, we will get that out. But it's going to take us a week or two to get that information and get accurate information to report out. As far as folks being able to get back into their house, under a warning, we're not allowing any public back into the, in the order, not allowing the public back into that. That is for safety concerns for both the public and for our firefighters. We have placed requests for resources for outside of California. Those are continually going. We have received in California resources from out of state. But just as we are we have multiple fires going on, and other states are experiencing the same weather patterns and have fires going on. So the resources coming from out of state, we've gotten some, and we're continuing to work with the other states to get some.
Thank you, Chief. One of the questions was a repeat info on where you can go to get the information on the evacuation orders and warnings. So again, you can visit the El Dorado County Sheriff's website that has the map and a lot of the information on the orders and warning locations there as well as getting the update sheets and checking the Cal Fire website and the NCWeb website for the Forest Service. So that information, like I said, when we post it out every 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., it has that information on there. We are also adding, we're going to be adding QR codes for you, so you'll be able to scan those, and it'll take you directly to the website. That should be coming out this evening, and hopefully that'll clear up some of that information for you guys as to where exactly to go to get that. And with that, our Ops Section Chief with some more questions.
Okay, several questions. If the fires crossed Highway 50, a lot of you probably looked at our map today. It did show a spot across Highway 50 on the north side of Highway 50. That was not accurate. We do multiple infrared aircraft flights every day, and sometimes the infrared equipment will pick up vehicles, hot rocks, or something like that. So there is no spot across 50. I will tell you, though, it's literally a couple hundred yards from 50, pretty much at Ice House Road, and we have holding resources there. It's a huge priority of mine to keep the fire on the south side of Highway 50. Someone asked if we were utilizing aircraft firefighting today. Yes, at 8 o'clock today, the smoke lifted up enough to get fixed-wing aircraft out here. The east side and the south end have been the clearest air for us, so we've been able to use multiple air tankers loading out of McClellan, and then up here where the smoke's been set in a little bit lower along the western and north edge, we're able to use helicopters in there, and we are dropping multiple thousands of gallons of retardant in water. We're also establishing a mobile retardant plant, which will allow us to drop retardant directly on the fire's edge with helicopters, and that'll be located at Pacific Ranger Station.
Thank you, Chief. One of the questions that did come in was, our comments was about a recent evacuation warning push for the northern part of Amador County, bordering El Dorado County line. And yes, that notification just went out via social media. There is a warning that was put in place for specific areas on the southern edge of the fire there in Amador County. So you can visit the Amador County Sheriff's website. They'll have that. We are also pushing that information out so that we can get that out to you. We also did get a question of notifications. How are they delivered for repopulation?
So once we decide that we're going to go ahead and do the repopulations, it'll be the same thing. We'll push those notifications out through the channels that we've been pushing the evac warnings and orders out in, and make sure that all the appropriate individuals get that information. It'll also be on the corresponding agencies' websites that have been putting out the warnings and orders. And we have a couple more questions for our Dorado County Sheriff.
Couple more questions we had here for the Sheriff's Office. One reminder I wanted to give out was for all of our residents to sign up for the Code Red system. It's very simple. Go on the EDSO website. If you're not signed up with the Code Red alert system, please do so. It is a vital tool in the Sheriff's Office communicating with our community. This tool allows us to send out notifications, warning orders, Code Red orders. If you're not registered, please go on our website and do so. On our Facebook page, we list a telephone number where you can get assistance if you're having trouble. It's fairly simple, but if you do have problems, contact that phone number. We will walk you through the process. That is vital to communications, and it gives you that additional warning. In evacuation areas, you are going to have deputy sheriffs as well as allied agencies in the evacuation areas, assisting, knocking on doors, sirens, PA announcements, and whatnot. But that Code Red is vital because you're going to get that before you're going to get a knock on your door or a deputy sheriff's car down the street. Secondly, we had one question during repopulation if the sheriff will escort us to our house. That's kind of a tough question. I'd like to say yes, we'll escort everybody. That's probably not reality. It really depends on the nature of what the fire is doing, depends on how many resources we have. But if anybody in our county, any of our citizens are not comfortable returning to their home when we are allowed to do so, call dispatch. We will do everything we can. You might need to wait a few minutes. We will do everything we can to ensure your home is safe and get you back there safely. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're winding down. Looks like we answered a good amount of questions, if not almost all the ones that we're coming across that aren't duplicates for us. So for those of you that may have just jumped on, I'd like to reiterate some of the information for you. Again, the fire currently is at 53,772 acres with 0% containment and 242 personnel. Again, that information is going to change with our update that comes out at 7 p.m. tonight. So make sure that you are signed up to get that information, watching your local social media, your agencies within the area, so you can get that information. We'll get it out to you in a timely fashion. And I'm going to bring up our IC for some closing comments. Correction, we'll bring up our agency representative.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mike Blankenheim, and I'm the unit chief for Cal Fire for the Amador El Dorado. And in this capacity, I'm also the agency administrator, one of the two agency administrators for the Caldor incident. So I just want to explain a couple of things real quick. One is going to be the role of the incident command team that's here from Cal Fire, and the other is going to be the unified command structure that we're operating in. So I'll start with the unified command piece. So this fire is being run jointly by Cal Fire and the U.S. Forest Service by the Amador El Dorado unit and the El Dorado National Forest. And the reason for that is it's burning in both of our jurisdictions. So we enter into what's called unified command, and with that comes a shared responsibility and a shared authority for all the decisions being made. So my partner, Forest Supervisor Jeff Marcellet, is the Forest Service supervisor. So with that, him and I are discussing and agreeing upon strategies, tactics, priorities, and all those kind of things. The reason you're seeing most of the people up here in front with Cal Fire patches on is there was an incident management team ordered a few days ago, and the one that was available came from Cal Fire. So it's a Cal Fire team managing and running the incident, but we're under unified command with joint authority, joint responsibility with the U.S. Forest Service. So yeah. The last thing I'd like to address before I turn it over to my partner, Jeff Marcellet, is the vast majority of the questions that came through tonight had to do with when can people go home out of end evacuation areas. So when we have a fire like this, a couple of our huge priorities, one, protecting life is by far the biggest one, both the lives of the citizens and the lives of the first responders. Second priority is, frankly, putting the fire out and being able to restore the community infrastructure and all the things that go around what makes a community, getting those things back to normal as quickly as humanly possible. And that includes getting people back home as quickly as possible. It's hard to put an exact time frame on something like that. If you were evacuated from your home and it's an area where we're successful in keeping the fire out of, that goes a lot quicker. When the fire is passed and the threat is passed, people can simply go home again. If you're unfortunate enough to have the fire impact your neighborhood or your home or your area and that kind of thing, that can take a little bit longer. We've got to make sure that the area is safe to return to as far as hazard trees, power lines, gas lines, and all myriad of hazard that can come after a fire has burned through an area. To put a time frame on that is hard, but that time frame is in many, many days, is not hours. So it's going to take a while to get some people back home, unfortunately. We recognize the impact that has on the community, but please understand that that is one of the #1 priorities for me, for Jeff Marcellet, and for the team as a whole. So with that, I'll turn it over to my partner, Jeff Marcellet.
Thanks, Chief. So good evening, and thank you. Thank you for taking time out of your evening to be with us. Thank you for taking time to ask questions and put us on the spot. I don't think Chief Blankenheim or myself are adverse to the tough questions, and so there will only be enough time in an evening to hit so many, but please make sure you're submitting those questions so that we can address the concerns that you have. I'd like to say that today we took advantage of a better weather condition than was forecast to do two things. One, start looking hard at where we can get some control lines in and make some progress. And two, get the administrative backbone that's going to run this incident in place. And I want to say, I think the team has done a remarkable job on both fronts, and I'm feeling like we're at least headed in a good direction. It's hard when a fire outpaces you. And yesterday, when it grew 40 to 45,000 acres, it was hard to even get a map in front of you that was accurate because it was hard to stay in front of where the fire was. But I think today we did a good job to help start to bring that information, and we're committed to continuing to do that for you. So thanks again. Our hearts are with you, especially those who've been evacuated and those who are under warnings. I can attest the Code Red system works well, so if you haven't signed up for that, you should. I got the alert just before I was evacuated from my own home, and so I know the feeling that many of you are feeling. And I'd like to say that we're going to continue to make progress on your behalf. So with that, next couple of nights, happy to answer some of the more difficult questions that may come up around the work that we have ahead. But thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you. And closing comments will be with our IC, Chief Martin.
So good evening. Chief Blankenheim and Chief Marcellet talked about the IMT. So Cal Fire IMT 6 has been brought here to bring this incident under control, and we are going to do everything in our powers to do just that. It is going to take time. We've talked last night and through some of our press releases that we are in a resource deprived environment. There's multiple fires going on around the state of California, and we're all competing for the same resources. Cal Fire IMT 6 is doing the best we can to get additional resources into this incident to combat the fire and put some control to it. Every day we're going to take we're going to take the wins that we can and build upon that and continue marching to a final progress. We are here for the community. We are here to bring some control to the chaos. Please continue to submit your questions. We're going to continue to have these community meetings to make sure that you get the most up-to-date information that we can. So once again, thanks for being on tonight, and we look forward to speaking to you tomorrow.
Thank you, Chief. And with that, I just want to reiterate, please stay informed. Keep checking the website. Sign up for the emails and the updates. We'll be sending those out, and we do have PIOs going out into the field, into the areas of the community to post some of that information, interact with you out there to get that information out. And with that, have a good night.